Welcome to my new 2028 video, so let's start. Diving in, Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer wouldn't do too good in these safe states from 2024. As you can see, I have Alaska and Florida for sure going safe for, and that's mostly because Whitmer is heavily disliked by a lot of Republicans because of the stuff she did during the COVID pandemic. Even though that's not gonna hurt her as much in 2028, I think that a lot of those GOP voters that did vote in 2020 and 2024 would really not be a fan of her running in 2028. And Texas, that's the thing for Gretchen Whitmer. I'm not too sure how she does with the Latino vote. Also, bear in mind that, as you can see, Kennedy, a lot of these Kennedy voters would have gone to Trump if he wasn't on the ballot. I'm gonna keep this, I think Alaska, Texas, and Florida all go by a safe margin of above 12%, and Florida could maybe even be 15%, but going a bit conservative here. And now back to the Rust Belt. In the 1st district of Nebraska, actually, as you can see in 2024, it barely went to Trump by a safe margin. I do think she does quite well with college graduates and whites, and there's not really a lot of minority voters here, which in my opinion she could struggle with. So I think that's why this goes by a likely margin for Vance still, but only by 10 to 12%. In similar fashion, in Iowa and Ohio, I wouldn't be surprised if they go by a safe margin since, you know, Ohio VP JD Vance's home state. The issue for Vance is that Whitmer's from the neighboring state, so she probably does get some appeal, but not as much compared to someone like Shapiro because there's a bit of a rivalry between Michigan and Ohio, so I wouldn't be even surprised if Ohio actually votes to the right of Iowa in this scenario. Anyway, 10 to 12% wins for the GOP here, and now we can probably, we can move on to Maine. Thankfully for, we can just talk about the two EVs here. So in the 2nd district of Maine, Trump won here by 9%. I don't expect too much of a difference in 2028 against Whitmer. Maybe drops down a tiny bit, but not too much. In Maine at large, she for sure does better than Kamala Harris did. I mean, any Democrat would. Maine at large goes to Governor Gretchen Whitmer by 6 to 8%. Should be easy win for her. And now to New Jersey. So New Jersey, I don't know how she does in an area that has a lot of Italian Americans, religiously a lot of maybe like Jewish people. I don't know how she does with that. That's why I think Josh Shapiro, if he were the nominee, he would do better than Whitmer here. And that's why I still have New Jersey going for the Democrats but only by 6 to 8% in my opinion. She probably doesn't do that much, but much better, but still Democrat victory here. And now for a state that is close to New Jersey, kind of, you could say that. Virginia. JD Vance could pick Youngkin here, and that would really help him quite a lot. I don't know what's gonna happen. That's why I don't like talking about possible VP picks, because anything can happen in politics. Whitmer wins here comfortably by more than her. I'm gonna say 5 to 7.5%. She should do better than her, but there's always that small possibility that maybe Virginia is redder down the road. But anyway, let's go to the 2nd district of Nebraska. So Nebraska, that's the thing though, for Whitmer, she does better with college graduates, of course, and maybe even white people overall. Not too sure how she does with a male vote. I do think that she does better with women, and I think that really does help her. Some of these areas that doesn't have too many minority voters, and the 2nd district should easily go to her by a likely margin. I'm guessing probably like 5 to 7% margin here. Could even be more, to be honest. I'm almost tempted to put this as 6 to 8, but I'm gonna be a bit conservative here and go with that margin. And now we can go to the states that could maybe become lean, but I think they're going to be just above the likely margin threshold. So for the first one in New Hampshire, I think she does okay. I wouldn't be surprised if this does drop down to lean D, mostly because for ideology and policies, maybe Republicans could really hammer her on issues like, how she did with the COVID pandemic and the mask mandates that could really maybe cause her to not do as well in New Hampshire. Still think she wins here because of the social issues, and it's kind of hard for a VP to become president straight away. Something I wish I would have done in 2024. Thought about that. Still, I think she wins here by 4 to 6%, like 5% on the dot for her as a victory. And to New Mexico, here's an area that I'm not too sure how she would do. I think she probably is one of the candidates that does worst with Latinos. I'm not too sure how Latinos would feel about voting for a woman to the presidency. And that, I don't know, that's something that hurt Kamala Harris in 2024. Maybe that's why she did as bad as she did, almost was barely winning Michigan by 6. I'm gonna say, unless she picks someone like Gallego or something like that, I think she might be on track to do even worse than Harris in New Mexico. I know that's a bit of a hot take, but I think it's going to be a 4 to 6% victory for Whitmer in New Mexico, so aka a 5% margin. Back to the Rust Belt. Here's the good thing for Gretchen Whitmer. She does have really good appeal to the white working class or just working class voters, and I think alongside that, she does have a decent amount of Rust Belt appeal being the governor of a state like Michigan, a competitive state that actually went to Trump in 2024, that went to Biden. And that's why I do think and believe she would be able to maybe get close to the margin that Biden got in 2020. We go back, it wouldn't be 7% though. She wouldn't be able to crack 7.1%, but I think she does good enough to the point that she actually surpasses Kamala Harris' margin with VP Tim Walz, and she probably gets 4 to 6%. And I think I'm gonna give her a victory just above by a likely margin of 5%. And that's it for the likely states. So as you can see, it's extremely close still, and now we can move on to the lean states. So for the first one that I think would be in the lean category margin, Arizona, yet again, I wouldn't even be surprised if she actually does as bad as Harris did in Arizona in 2024. I wouldn't be surprised about that at all, because I think maybe the Achilles heel for Gretchen Whitmer could be Latino voters. I think she does okay with black voters. I think she probably picks someone like Warnock or someone like Wes Moore that really would help her. But Latino voters, wouldn't be surprised if that's her Achilles heel. Could even be likely hard, to be honest. But immigration won't be as big of an issue for voters because, Trump presidency, immigration would really drop down in the list of issues for voters. And that's one of the things that, I'm going to talk about that in a second, about immigration in the suburbs. So I'm going to say JD Vance wins here by 3 to 5% unless Whitmer picks Gallego, but I don't think she will. So 4% victory for the GOP here. And now for Gretchen Whitmer's home state of Michigan. So in Michigan, in the past, we go to the last election. As you can see, Gretchen Whitmer did amazing against a very poor GOP candidate, Dixon, and it was a blue wave year, which is why I think she probably does quite well in the Democratic primary. And back to what I was saying, I think with immigration not being as big of an issue, she probably does make some gains or take back some of the gains that Trump did in the suburbs, because a lot of people, some women voters didn't like the fact that immigration was an issue, and that's why they went for Trump. And I could even see likely D, but with Gretchen Whitmer having home state advantage, I do think she could win here by 2.5% to 4.5%, maybe even crack 5% victory for her. So I think she wins her home state, of course, easily by that margin. Doing quite well in the suburbs and with women voters, of course. And now for North Carolina. I think I would go to the last election. I don't expect too much of a difference in this state. I'm guessing Vance wins here by 2 to 4%. Could trend to the right, could trend to the left, but not too much of a difference from 2024. Anyway, we can now move on to Nevada, yet again talking about the Latino trend. I think with Whitmer would still trend to the right, and 3.1%. Now, I might get some slack for this, but I really do think she wouldn't be able to do quite well. I know she does good with working class, but not enough. I'm gonna say Nevada goes for JD Vance by 0.75% to 2.75%, so there's a shot that it goes down to tilt R, but I think the Latino trend really screws Democrats, especially in this scenario, and GOP still retains this state in 2028. And now we can move on to Wisconsin. I really do think Gretchen Whitmer does really fit in the Rust Belt, and especially in Michigan and the Wisconsin area. Bear in mind, Wisconsin was the weakest state for Trump in 2024, and it's not even by close proximity. It was his weakest state. And with someone like Gretchen Whitmer from the neighboring state of Michigan, I should say, she would do quite well, actually. And I'm gonna put this as barely lean D for Democrats here. I know the economy, tariffs, there's so many things that we don't know how things will be in 4 years, but I would say Whitmer could do really good with her coalition. I think she probably wins Wisconsin by 0.75% to 2.75%. Same margin as Nevada, but for the Democrats, so maybe tilt D, but yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. Lean D victory for Democrats here. And now, Georgia, even though I do think she does pretty bad in the Sun Belt, I think the Georgia trends are just too much for Democrats, I should say Republicans, in the Atlanta suburbs, and I think she probably goes with an African-American VP pick and that really would screw JD Vance over unless he picks someone from Georgia. But anyway, that's too much hypotheticals. I think the turnout Gretchen Whitmer would be enough to flip the state. Narrowly though, because I don't think she does really good in the Sun Belt, except in a state like Georgia because of the trends, and I think she wins here by 0.75%. Very close though. And now for the ultimate toss-up, in my opinion, if it was up to me, to be honest with you, I would leave the map like this. But for Pennsylvania, in my opinion, the closest state in this election, hypothetically, because JD Vance, he is from the home state of Ohio, and as you can see, Pennsylvania was by far the Trumpiest state out of these 3 Rust Belt states. And I wouldn't be surprised if perhaps JD Vance wins Pennsylvania, or if it goes into recount territory like Florida 2000, but I'm gonna go with my usual take in the Rust Belt, and that is that all 3 swing states in this region of the country would vote yet again together, although because of Vance's proximity would really be very close. I think Gretchen Whitmer would barely win Pennsylvania by 0.5%, and this state would be the closest in this election. But as you can see, Gretchen Whitmer narrowly wins with 286 electoral votes, while VP JD Vance gets 252 electoral votes. Let me know what your map looks like. Feel free to leave a like and join the Discord and the channel membership. And as always, have a good rest of your day.